Hi, I'm Kayla Johnson, and I'm going to be talking to you a little bit about the internet and how it detracts from our happiness and our quality of life. So, the first concern with the internet and our uses as individuals of it is the comparison between our lives and other people's lives that we see on the internet. It can be people that we know or strangers. But a big problem that comes with the internet and having access to all of these people across the entire world is that we can see their lives. We can see what they're doing, how they're living. And if we don't think that we're living up to the same standard, it will cause us to become depressed, give us anxiety that really isn't necessary and that we wouldn't have otherwise. In our sources, you can see there's an article in there that talks about the comparing monkeys study, and it was a monkey conducted on two different monkeys where they were given tasks and they just watched and kind of annotated the different outcomes of the study and how the monkeys reacted when comparing themselves to one another. And that's kind of what we do as individuals. We compare our lives with others, whether it be intentional or unintentional. Another way that the internet can detract from our quality of life and even our happiness is the pressure to remain connected, whether it be with our friends or just general acquaintances. The internet, we have access to all of these people in a way that we did not have before the internet or before social media sites such as Facebook. And that kind of puts the pressure on us to, stay involved in other people's lives where we wouldn't take the time to call them or contact them or write them before we had this ability through the internet. Another way that the internet kind of takes away from our quality of life is that we have an increased sense of self-worth that we put in the internet and the people that we interact with on the internet and talk to on the internet. Everybody, gauges their, maybe not everybody, but a lot of people gauge their self-worth off of likes, like how many people liked their post or their picture or their tweet or retweeted them. And it leads to the people who don't get that kind of attention to feel lonely or isolated, and like what they're saying and doing isn't important, where it could just be, they're in a filter bubble and they're not getting the hits or the being seen by people. Maybe people like it and just don't have time, or people don't check it, but they put a lot of self-worth into how people they're perceived by other people, or how they perceive that other people are seeing them. Another way that the internet takes away kind of from our happiness and quality of life is the amount of time that is spent on the internet. This leads to you kind of weakening personal relationships and time spent with your family and your friends. On our slide, it shows a picture of a family sitting around a dinner table, and the kids are on iPads and the parents are on their phones. And I think that most people can attest to this, where you hang out with your friends or you are sitting around with your family and you're not talking or having quality relationships with them, but rather you're so engrossed on your phone and looking at your mobile device in your hand that you might be having a conversation, but you're not looking at the person, you're not engaging with them in the way that you used to. And that can kind of lead to unhappiness and loneliness, where maybe you miss your family, but you just spent a whole weekend with them where you were on your phone the entire time, and you're just not getting the quality interactions that you used to. Other ways that it can detract, or the negative effects of the internet, would be that it allows for narcissistic tendencies. So whereas before, and this is even before digital cameras, when you had to develop film, people didn't go around just taking pictures of themselves 100 different times to make sure that they got the right angle, the right light, that they look great. Whereas the internet, that's what it is. Instagram, people spend countless hours and amounts of time traveling to different places and trying to get a great picture, or taking 50 pictures to get the right one. Besides for just the photogenic part of the narcissism comes the self-promoting posts or tweets or just anything where you have individuals who will write about their lives and overshare or sell themselves in a way that might not be true, just to have that kind of attention that they'll get from people who follow them or like them on the internet. And then one last way that it detracts from the quality of life or even our happiness is that it kind of interferes with education. It interferes with students' learning processes and their cognition, and quite frankly just the time that they spend. You know, a lot of times, and I know that I'm very guilty of this, where I'm doing homework, but I stop and I check my phone or respond to a message on my phone every 5 minutes, and then I have to go back and backtrack to where I was. So these are just a few ways. I'm sure there's many more ways, and a lot of other studies that I didn't read that talk about how the internet can detract from your happiness and your quality of life.